The following podcast contains spoilers and adult language.
My name is Roger. Wow.
How you feeling?
Oh, it's hard out there.
That's right. It's not all canned peaches and marmalade up here.
This is a message from the Office of Emergency Preparedness. Due to the recent crisis, we ask that you remain in your homes. Do not attempt to communicate or interact with the creatures, even if they are people you know.
Lock your doors. Bar your windows. Evil is coming. It's time for Aim for the Head, a horror apocalypse entertainment podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Diana and Steve.
Hi, welcome back to Aim for the Head podcast. I'm Diana.
And I'm Roger. Steve. Roger.
Steve. Roger. Over, under.
Under and done.
This week we're continuing our coverage of Season 1 of the Amazon Prime series Fallout. This week we're going to be discussing Episode 4. Title of the episode is The Ghouls.
Where the ghouls are.
Yeah,
Remember that song?
exactly.
It's a great song.
Oh, yeah. I remember it from way back whence.
That's right. Probably played it. Yeah, probably played when you took that boy to the sock hop.
Probably. I mean, Why wouldn't it? And folks, if you've listened to us before, you know we usually go through our top 10s for the episode. We go through and give our big moments for the episodes. But before we do that, we usually like to just a quick feeling on how we felt about the episode. Sort of like quick thoughts, if you will. In last week's episode, when we talked episode 3 of Fallout, Steve went first, so it's my turn to go first. So, for episode 4, The Ghouls, what did I think? I love this episode. There's so much good stuff. I remember last week we were talking about how it was a... I don't want to say, I think we did use the word filler, to be fair, but like a really good filler episode. And this was, it was great. First of all, there was only 2 storylines. They don't even end up doing any of the Maximus Titus storyline, which is fine because we can center in on the 2 storylines we had, which was, we did a little bit of Norm and Chet in the vault, but majority of the episode was Lucy and the Ghoul, and they're just fantastic. Like the pairing of those 2 together and the chemistry and all of that stuff, their deep-seated loathing for each other is, palpable. But just, I loved so much about this episode. So many great visuals. There's some great character building moments for both Lucy and for Cooper, and just some great reveals as well. I thought it was fantastic. How do you feel? What are your thoughts on the Ghouls?
Well, I'm kind of anti-ghoul overall, but in this episode, it was actually really good. I think for the out of the 4 episodes that we've seen so far, this one is without a doubt a love letter to the game players of Fallout.
Okay.
And you're right. I mean, does it really advance the story? Not much, right? I mean, we there's nothing with Knight Titus / Maximus, and it's nothing with the head or the target, but it does a little bit with like the vault life, right?
Yep.
We get a little bit further, we probe a little bit more into how did the Raiders get in the first place, and maybe what actually happened in Vault 32, and
right.
but that's it. But the rest of it, it's a side quest, right? But everything in this episode that they show, from the Super Duper Mart to the Abraxo cleaner to, everything. It's just all stuff from the game that if you play the game, you're just like, wow, they nailed it. They got it all right. And so, it's a super fun episode. There's some great moments in it. There's a lot of fun action, and you get some cool gore, and there's a little bit of the weird like conspiracy stuff with what's going on in Vault 32. And let's be honest, there are some like laugh out loud funny moments
Oh my
with
God,
Vault
yes.
32.
Oh God, yeah.
So again, it's a super fun episode. It, like I said, it does basically nothing to push the plot forward, but we do see the characters, particularly Lucy, develop a lot.
Yeah.
And change a lot from Lucy in episode 1 to Lucy now, and so yeah, I'm right there with that. I really enjoyed this episode a lot. I thought it was super fun. And again, not much push forward narrative wise, but still highly entertaining.
Agreed. All right, so before we get talking about our individual points for the episode, let's just refresh everyone's memory with what we are about to chat about. Let's talk episode description, and then we'll jump into the writer and director of the episode. That's you,
All
man.
right. I know, and I'm so excited because this week it's different writers and
Oh
directors.
my God, new people!
I know. I was like a damn broken record every week. Like, yep, same people.
Well, hey, at least that moves the plot forward. You get to talk more about,
Exactly. All right, so this is, again, episode 1.4, The Ghouls, and this is, of course, the Amazon Prime series Fallout, and our description that we have is as follows. Lucy and the Ghoul encounter dangerous situations leading to a moral dilemma and intense confrontations. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Norm uncovers secrets in Vault 32, linking back to his mother's past and raising questions about the residents' fate. And that is your episode description. And I remember that movie, Dangerous Situations. It was really good. I think Michelle Pfeiffer starred in it, if I remember correctly. So
Yeah, definitely.
it was like in like 18th century France. It was really good. Yeah. Oh no, wait, that was Dangerous Liaison. So sorry. Anyway, that's a pretty good description. It kind of sums up that, yeah, stuff happened to both Lucy and Norm. So good for them.
Well done. Thank you, Fallout,
Well,
for a good description.
Well done, episode description writer person.
Yes.
All right, so our writer and director, as I said, it is different people this week, which is really refreshing. Although the people that had written the first 3 episodes, I thought, did a really darn good job. So, it's not like it was like, oh my God, please, get someone in here to replace these people. But we did. And so our writer for this week is a dude named Kieran Fitzgerald.
Mm-hmm.
And he has some writing credits and other stuff. He worked on Snowden, if you remember that show.
Okay.
He wrote for a show called Wormwood and The Homesman and another show called POV. And I actually remember POV. That's from a few years ago, though. But that is our writer, and then the director this week is a guy named Daniel Gray Longino, so one of those triple name people, and he has like 19 total directing credits going all the way back to like 2005, 2006, so a goodly amount of time, like about 20 years worth of directing. And just looking at it, things that people might recognize, he directed episodes of the series Overcompensating. He directed episode of the show Billions, if you remember that show.
Oh, yeah.
There was an NBC series called AP Bio that was a comedy that he directed. So again, he's done some stuff, a lot of TV mostly, and like I said, 19 credits that go back about 20 years. So definitely a dude with a lot of acting or directing chops. So yeah.
Fantastic.
So that is our writer and our director.
All right. So sort of diving right in to the episode, we get the cold open before we get the title card is just this fantastic scene. The whole scene is just great, where Cooper is taking Lucy, to we find out where he's going by the end of this episode, but he's taking Lucy through, the wasteland to get somewhere. And they're walking past this, medic office, and they can hear.
It's like a clinic.
Yeah, and they can hear something inside, and it sounds like someone, snapping and snarling. So they go and investigate.
My name is Roger.
Yeah, so they go investigate to see what's going on, and it turns out it's this other ghoul, hence the title, The Ghouls. This other ghoul, Roger, who knows Cooper, and they have this fun bonding moment over being ghouls themselves, and it's hard up there, man, it's hard up there, and and come to find out, poor Roger seems like a nice guy, but he's all out of his inhalable medication, the stuff that staves off the ghoulishness, which he's not lying when he says fresh out.
Fresh out.
I don't have any. So he accepts it. I'm not gonna get any, and that's fine. But I like how he immediately is like, you guys should probably leave then. If you don't have anything, I'm about to turn. It
might get unpleasant.
Yeah, exactly. He's very sweet about it, which is so funny because like the dichotomy of the fact that because when he goes back and forth and he's just like, yeah, you guys should probably go. It's like
it's almost like it's like ghouls like develop like Tourette's.
Yeah. That's crazy, but yes, that's probably what it's most like.
Yeah.
And then of course, it's clear that he's gonna change, and then Cooper does him a solid, and
does he though?
Well, let's talk about that. So clearly, we're talking about, Cooper distracts him by talking to him about, do you remember how food tasted, and he gets him talking about what he liked. And then Cooper says something about apple pie, and he's immediately like, oh, apple pie. And that triggers something, and he turns to look at Lucy and start to tell a story. My mom used to, bam, and he's just shot him in the head.
Oh, yeah. So, blows his brains completely all over the wall.
So if you take away the fact of how they desecrate his body in about 2 more minutes after this,
ass jerky time.
I know, it's time for ass jerky. One could say that, I put it down like, does he have a heart? Is he sympathetic? Did he do like, I would prefer somebody put me down, rather than
when you say he, who are you referring to? Coop or Roger?
No, I'm talking about Coop. I'm talking about how Coop treated Roger in that moment. That he, gave him a better ending, and also
ending. That's so funny.
He specifically distracted him with the talk about food, so Roger's last memory as a human, he's like a ghoul, almost not human anymore. His last memory that he could call back up again was about something that gave him pleasure, and he had like a smile on his face, and then he died. So I guess the argument is, if you take away the self-serving stuff which happens after, did Cooper do something nice and kind in that moment?
Well, what do you think?
I think that he did. I don't think that maybe was his end goal, because clearly he sees an opportunity for them to get some sustenance as well, but it's kind of like a kill 2 birds with 1 stone thing. This guy's gonna go, and it might as well be me, because then I can get the fresh meat, but I also know him, and I have a little bit of a soft spot for him, because I have a familiarity, and it's a shit way to go. So I'm gonna, help him out here and do something nice, That's how it read to me. And I understand, like, right after it happens, there's this whole, the self-serviness of the, being able to harvest meat off of him. But I think that his instinct, like in starting the conversation about the food, was a kindness to have him have his last memory be of something good.
Same.
So that's how I
and how does that make you feel?
Anyway.
Yeah, I gotta say no. Mm-mm. I think that was Cold Dead Heart Ghoul. Yeah, he brought up the food to distract him so he could pull his gun out and shoot him. And that, there was no warmth there. The ghoul has no warmth at this point to me. He is, he's on the mission. He wants to collect the bounty so that he'll have enough caps so he can buy all the and I'm just going to use your term here, anti-ghoul medication, for the rest of his life, or at least a long part of it. And, he went in there and, ran into his pal, or a guy that he used to know, and, asked if he had any, and you could see like there's like 4 or 5 empty vials, by Roger's feet. He's like sitting there on the ground, right? And we should point out too, this like whole building is just like we saw last week. It's like covered in sand.
Yeah, it's engulfed in sand.
Yeah,
totally.
so, and he's just like sitting in the sand, and so then once Coop realized that this particular ghoul did not have any meds that he could take or borrow or whatever, he then just went to plan B, which is, well, I got to eat something here to keep me going a little longer to find the meds. So yeah, you're dead. So no, I didn't see any of the doing you solid or nothing. I think it was just, Raj, sorry, man, and he capped him. So I would point out though that Roger points out that he lasted as a ghoul for 22 years.
28 years.
Or 28 years.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And he's like, it's pretty good, and then he looks at Coop and he's like, I mean, you've been doing it a long, you've gone way longer. And Coop goes, long time, but they don't actually say, right? We don't know, but the audience does. We know that, oh yeah, I mean, this guy's
like
been around for
years.
hundreds of years. Yeah. But it just goes to show you how long has he been on that medication,
exactly.
That if this guy is, literally turning and going, and in the game, ghouls that are that turn, they're referred to as feral, feral ghouls. And they don't talk, and they literally they act the most mostly like the Romero or Kirkman universe.
So traditional,
ghouls.
yeah.
Yeah, they're fast. They're not the slow shambling style, but they just attack you, and when they see you, and so you have no choice but to kill them. There's no negotiating or talking or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I didn't see that. I just saw him as it's just that was just something he could use, and so he did. And the other thing I want to point out, though, is that Roger, when they ask you about food, Roger points out Blammo mac and cheese.
Mm-hmm.
And again, straight out of the game, because you find Blammo mac and cheese all over the place, and it's all irradiated because it's hundreds of years old, but it's there, And sometimes you'll go if you go into a working vault, they might have like good cartons of it, little containers of it you can eat. So, but yeah, no, I did not see it as him doing anything other than helping Coop, and the fact that Roger's dead is immaterial to him. So, and again, Lucy is like, horrified, right? Because she buys into it and is kind of like, hey, they're having a real sweet moment here when they're reminiscing about ice cream and apple pie and all that, and all that stuff, and then bam, he's gone, and Lucy is like, looking at it, and of course, as soon as he's dead, Coop is like rolls him over and gets out his like little collection of carving knives and gets to work, right?
Oh, yeah.
And Lucy she's just like, oh my freaking God, and I know you wrote down some of the lines, she is just like, what the fork, what the fudge?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and just not to belabor the point, but I would ask you this though about the conversation about mac and cheese and the apple pie.
Mm-hmm.
If he didn't know the ghoul that was there, would he have even done that? He would, if he hadn't. That's my point, is that if it was someone he didn't know very well, if it was, or at all, he'd just take out his gun and shoot him. But
yeah,
that he added in this little, pleasantry moment was there, and whether he felt it at the time or maybe it was like a hearkening back to the Cooper of old, I don't know. But anyway, so yeah,
it totally could be. It just that's when I watched it, I didn't really get that. I just got this this idea of okay, I'm just gonna distract you by looking at what's in this hand while my other hand pulls my gun out and shoots you.
Well, that's definitely how Lucy took it, because she can't believe how he did all of that, and as soon as he starts carving him up and etc., she says to him, "How do you live like this? Why go on?" Yeah. And he approaches her like right up in her face and says, "Well, one good question deserves another. Why the fuck am I doing all the work? Come on, Valty, ass jerky don't make itself."
Yeah, it's so great. Ass jerky don't make itself. Yeah. Oh yeah, so good. And I believe she because I mean, basically every episode she is covered in something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Whether it's water or muck or radioactive waste or whatever. And then so in this one, when he shoots Roger, she has like a whole face full of arterial spray.
Yeah.
On you know what I mean? And so he hands her the knife and she grabs it and you see her, she's looking at the knife, she's covered in blood, and she's just like, I cannot believe my life. You know what I mean? She's just like, what happened?
Yeah.
But she does it, right? And so then when they cut to the next scene and we see the like 4 or 5 like strips of ass jerky that are like on Coop's saddle or something, that it's like, that's for later. I'm gonna eat that on my own later.
Yeah. This is that's we're getting ready for dinner. Like, this is right now we're having lunch, but later we'll have some dinner.
And I also really like the moment when Coop starts slicing him open, and he like takes like a little bit of like skin, and he because he's like, oh, and he's like, it's like a little, like when it's Thanksgiving and like you're carving the turkey and then someone come up and grab a little piece and you're like, hey, it's like, that's for dinner, like it was like that kind of like he like was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be so good, just it was sort of like, oh, that's disgusting.
There's a really great line though, because she's resisting when it comes to the actual ass jerky. She's resisting at first, and you included a really great line where she's trying to, like, it's so sweet. She's trying to make it seem like the little hardships they've had inside the vault, compare it all with what people have had to deal with on the surface,
It's when they leave the clinic and they're walking again, down out in the wasteland, and she's just like, we had our problems too.
Yeah.
And she talks about like, there was like an infection of 77 and people had to quarantine, and so we couldn't work the crops, and like, there was starvation, and my dad dropped down to 128 pounds and he didn't complain at all, and the Ghoul is just like looking at her like, and then he says like he says something like, well, now there's what people say they did and what they really did.
Oh yeah, and he follows that up with, like, he makes some line about how your dad was probably first in line, but he's
first in line at the cookout,
right? But he's not gonna tell his daughter this terrible, it's revisionist history, and it's great because, without giving anything away towards the end, there's definitely some moments in later episodes where we sort of question some of the, revisionist history that her dad has given her. So this is just like, he's sort of like, this is foreshadowing, get used to thinking about your dad in this like weird way, because, it might be coming soon. Yeah.
Yeah, that whole line totally dripping with foreshadowing, about
Yeah.
there's, what people said they're doing and what they actually did. And also remember, right before he says that to her, he asks her what her name is. And she's like, Lucy McLean. And then he actually stops
Yeah,
what
he's
he's
got some
doing.
recognition there, yeah.
And he's like, McLean, like he recognizes at least the last name, right?
Yeah.
And so again, that also is gonna come back into the story later on. Again, we don't want to give away anything to people that have not already viewed the season and know what's coming up. But yeah, I thought that that line where he said that was just so, there's so much more there, particularly for you and me now, because we're watching the series a second time and we kind of know what's coming.
Right. Exactly.
And to let so like you pointed out,
Yeah.
it's just so ripe with, everything that you think is just an absolute truth.
Yeah.
Might not
be
be
true,
so.
yeah. And I mean, and she's already confronted so much of it. They told, she grew up hearing, it's almost okay for us to go to the surface. And like, there are things that have radiation, but majority of the time when she's walking with Cooper, I mean, her radiation monitor is not going off, not all the time.
No.
So
when she gets her on water.
Yeah, but so there are items and things that are radiated, but most of like the outer world is just, I mean, yes, it's wasteland, so it's bad, but it's not like a hellscape or anything, you know what I mean? So she's already had a couple of things where she's had to sort of start thinking that way. But you're right, because, the first time through, those lines and stuff like that about her dad don't hit the same way. But now that we sort of have an idea of where we're going to go, again, spoilers, it's a little more interesting to see like how the layers sort of start as early as now with like, little distrust, a little thought, put her off her game kind of thing,
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's great because he hands off the knife to her, and when she finally does do her due diligence and cuts into poor Roger, you included it, the blood spatters, and it's the title card.
Yes.
So that another week, another great title card reveal. And another great way of incorporating it into the actual episode itself, where, each week it's been, something right around that moment when they're going to show the title card figures prominently, whether it's, the blowing away the sand or etc. So this is another instance of that with like the spatter of the blood. And it looks great too.
It looks great. And the sound effect is killer.
Yeah.
Just that sort of,
yeah.
And it just, and it also, it comes from the side and splatters, from the side onto the Fallout card.
Yeah.
So it almost looks like it's coming right from where she, plunged the knife in. Yeah. It's really great. And just, it's ultimately meaningless to the episode, but it's just fun.
Right. We talked about that, last week or the week before when we, compared it to when Fear the Walking Dead was doing that stuff in the beginning, where it doesn't add anything of value to the episode, but there's a fun element of looking forward to, what are they going to do this week with the thing. So it's nice because it gives you like this fun little extra journey. So after we get the title card, we pivot back to the vault. And we check back in with Norm, and he has this really nice scene with Betty, and it's a great scene where she's saying more than what she's saying when she's, she basically, she comes over to give him pie, and he's like, "You're not here to give me pie, you're here to talk to me about what I brought up at the meeting," when he basically said we should just kill the prisoners. And, he's like, "It upset people, and I know you don't like to upset people, so that's why you're here to talk to me." And she gets talking to him about how, people handle things different ways. He reveals to her that when they were attacked, he hid. And she asks, how do you feel about that? And he never really says. You can just tell he's ashamed of it, that he feels bad about it. And there's probably some survivor's guilt in there as well,
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So,
well, and she points out that, there are other people in the vault that feel the same thing that you do. You're not alone with that opinion. So she's probably heard it from other citizens that are like, F these prisoner raider people, they killed my husband, daughter, son, mother, father, wife, whatever. And then she points out that with his father gone and with Lucy out of the vault, he's the last McLean here, and his name and his voice carries a lot more than he might think it does.
Yeah, it does. And he just has to be mindful of that. And I guess he probably never really thought about it that way, but she brings it up to him, and I like her quote, which she just says to him, just tread lightly. That's all I ask. So she doesn't tell him not to be skeptical or be, a troublemaker. She's just asking him to be more careful about it.
Just kind of think just a little bit before you go out and do whatever you're going to do. Or say.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was a really great little moment there.
Yeah. I would point out that they're having pie. And of course, Coop just brought up pie to poor Roger in the previous scene. So again, a little symmetry there, right? A little through line of pie. So interesting.
But in this case, it's rhubarb pie, which is the lesser of the two pies that have been mentioned. So
that is true. But again, it's just I thought it was interesting that the one conversation has pie and it ends up with a bullet in the head, and the second conversation has pie and it ends up with just kind of watch what you're saying. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we return to Lucy and the ghoul, who are, like you said, they're now on their way again with some flaps of meat flapping on the bag. He's got his little saddle bag and attached, and it's great.
It's gross and so great, right? Because you just know it's like, yep, that's ass jerky right there.
What's funny is the size and shape of them. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but the size and the shape of them, they totally remind me of like the shape of the pieces that Buffalo Bill cut out for Silence of the Lambs. They were kind of like diamondy shaped or whatever. And so like the very first time I saw them, I was like, "Ooh, he's gonna make a human suit." But that's not clearly that's not happening. So
we're she a great big fat girl.
Great big fat person. So that was, I saw that, and the shape just, I was like, whoa. And then it continued on in the episode that it was in. And he of course is as heartless as usual. She is so thirsty. She just can't get anything to drink, and he literally goes and fills up his canteen in front of her with water that like her Pit Boy is just like crackling away. So she
it's pegging the radiation detectors all the way to the danger zone. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, and he grabs some and he's chugging away and doing his thing, and she just stands there and she thinks about it and she thinks about it, and then she gives up. And I put my note in there that it's that's it. There's some growth with Lucy this episode. There's some changes she goes through, and there's definitely a change when she realizes that she's so thirsty she doesn't care that she's drinking radiated water. She just has to have something, she's that desperate. So that's a great little moment of her sort of accepting her fate and dealing with it. And in the midst of it, he's of course the dick that he normally is, and she's just like, who are you anyway? And he's got a great response, which you included here.
What did I? Oh yeah,
on you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
and I should just point out in game terms, the ghouls in the game, they're the fact that they're like the ghouls, that's happened to them. They're immune to everything. So they can
Right.
eat anything. They can consume human flesh. They can drink radiated water. They can go into a radiated zone. It doesn't bother them at all. And so, when he walks over and fills up the canteen and then he drinks and he's kind of like he holds the canteen up and is like letting the drops hit his tongue and he's looking at her like, I'm drinking all this water, and he knows that she is like, I can't drink that because it's, poison basically. It's
Right.
radiated. So then when she finally breaks down and he's like, yeah, that's it, Balti, and she looks up at him. She's like, who are you? And he goes, oh, I'm you, sweetie. Just give it a little time.
It's a great line. It's a great
Yeah.
line.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it comes back to him later, which is fantastic. It's a good Chekhov's line
It's
there,
right.
because
It
it'll definitely come back.
It will. It definitely will. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then he like goes into one of his coughing fits
Yeah.
after that, and she runs away.
Uh-huh.
And literally like runs around the corner and then stops because we get the and I put this in my notes. We had this great effect shot of this decaying city with like the skyscrapers that are all like in various states of collapse, and there's this massive crater, right, probably where one of the bombs hit directly, like an impact crater. And we've been talking about there's like the burned out, rusted out cars everywhere and stuff, but that look with all the buildings and stuff, I mean, that's just such an iconic apocalypse image.
Mm-hmm.
That for the apocalypse lover and me, that I always get giddy when I see stuff like that in movies or in the video games and stuff, because it's just so cool. I mean, horrifying, and if it were to happen in real life, but it's cool to see.
And it's interesting too, because if you think about it, like so many apocalyptic things we watch where things are happening right after the fall. Like Last of Us, it's within like 15 to 20 years when we see things. But in this instance, this is a couple hundred years, and seeing like the decay is still, and there's great because as she sort of pans around, like there's actively like stuff still falling, it's just fantastic. It's great because you realize it's not just like a painted scene, it's like an active scene because there's stuff moving.
If you look in the crater, you can see there's like sewer lines where like water is like pouring out, like almost like a waterfall now. That I mean, it's not like a natural one, but it's there. Yeah, it is a spectacular vista, and I mean, it literally causes her to stop, and she's just sort of like kind of gobsmacked at like, holy crap. And then the next thing the lasso comes in and around her waist, and of course the ghoul is recovered and it's come up behind her, and he rips her off her feet and literally drags her back to him. And then when he is like trying to kind of wrangle her, he gets one of his hands close to her mouth, and she takes old Mr. Pointer on his right hand, and she decides it's finger food time.
Yeah. Yeah, she just chomps right down and spits it out,
Oh, she do.
And it's funny too because she literally does that right after he's said I'm you. You just give it a little time. And the very next moment, she bites off his finger and spits it out, and it's such a like sort of feral moment, so animalistic, and it's so like, I mean, it's badass in a lot of ways, but it's another sort of like rung or step, you could say, where Lucy has sort of slipped from the sweet and kind Lucy that came out of the vault. There's these little moments that keep doing that, and this is definitely one of them.
Yeah, well, and just think about what just happened. We just saw him eating human flesh,
right?
And now we see her, and she doesn't actually, eat it, doesn't swallow it, right? But she comes pretty close.
Oh yeah.
And this is right after he said, "I'm you, you're me, we're basically the same person. You just need to like percolate a little bit more. You need to like bake in the oven a little bit more of what it's like to be up topside. And pretty soon you and me are going to be, you won't be able to tell us apart."
Yeah. We're the same. We're the same, you and me.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
and I love his reaction too, because she bites off his finger and he looks at it, and then he immediately grabs her right hand and pulls out, his "that's not a knife," and just hacks her finger off at almost the same spot where his fingers got knocked off. So they're even more alike now, right?
Yeah.
It's even, they're just hitting you over the head with it. But just the way he doesn't even flinch, we're like, oh, okay, that's how we're going to play this? Yeah. Fine. Whack. And then I know you wrote down the line that he kind of looks at her in the face, and it's great. It's great.
Yeah, and he just stares her down and says, "Now that right there is the closest thing we've had to an honest exchange so far." And it's just great because like you said, she bites off the finger, he has no reaction whatsoever. No. Because I mean, we saw him get shot in Philly, so he can't feel pain the way a human would. So it's just a distraction, and it's an encumbrance that he'll be short a finger. But it's not like she did anything to hurt him. But no. I'm sure her finger hurts like quite much right now.
You know what? Either way, you know me and finger trauma, okay?
Oh yeah, that's right, finger trauma.
This was a very tough moment for me to watch. Okay.
How are you doing post finger trauma? Were you okay watching this? Because you had to rewatch it a couple times to do your notes.
I did. You know what? Lucy is going to have like finger repair soon, so I felt better about Lucy, not so much about Coop, because Coop's just down to nine little piggies, right?
Yeah.
Again, it's gross, but it's awesome. It's awesome the way that they do it, and just what helped me kind of recover from my finger trauma issues is the fact that not once, but immediately after she bites his finger off, he cuts her finger. I mean, there's no moment of thinking, debate, discussion. Yep. It's like, okay, tit for tat, bang, bang. There you go. How do you like them apples? You know what I mean? It was just like, here we go, and then for him to look at her and say, you know what, this is like right now, this little moment where you took my finger, I took your finger, that is the most honest thing we've ever done together so far. It was great.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Before we get to the next scene with Lucy and Coop, it's fantastic and leads into some of the best scenes. We do get...
we go back to the vault.
We go back to the vault for a little bit. Oh, and we have the Chet and Stephanie scene, which is so good. I didn't put any notes down about it, but I got one later. But you've got the stuff from the sort of establishing Chet / Stephanie as like a thing, but Stephanie shows up at Chet's place and is checking in with him and how you doing, and he's like, not great.
Well, and she has like the box full of like stuff from her husband from Bert. Yeah. Right. And she's like, I thought maybe you could take some of them. And we should point out, Chet has got to be like 6'5".
Yeah, he's a big dude.
And we saw in episode 1, Bert, which is Stephanie's husband, and he is not a big guy.
No, he's just a little more average, He's definitely smaller than Chet.
Yes, and so she pulls out this boot. And I mean, it looks like a kid's boot. It is so teeny, right? And she's like, I was thinking you'd want this. And he picks it up in his hand, and I wrote down, he's like, I'll try to wear them.
It's just a great line, because he's trying to say nice things about Bert, and he cared about his shoes, and Stephanie's like, he would want you to have these, so I want you to have these and enjoy them, and he just pauses. I'll try to wear them.
Yeah. Oh,
great.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
And like you said, she starts up by going, "How you doing?" And he's like, "Not great." And then he tries to return the favor, and he's like, "So how are you handling the death of your unborn child's father?" And then he realizes, oh, that was not the thing to say. You know, and she just looks at him and she goes, about the same. You know, it's really awkward and funny in all the great ways. And so then what does she pull out? The scarf next? Like a Voltex scarf?
He's got like, she pulls out this twofer, which is this this cardigan, which is too small for him.
Oh, way too small.
Yeah, and then there's this super long scarf, which is knitted with the vault colors, the blue and the yellow.
The blue and the yellow,
she gets that around him, and she like steps back to look at him, and he's like wearing a too small sweater, wearing a huge scarf, and she's like,
Bert.
you know, Bert.
Bert.
And he's like, she's then from there it starts to fall apart because she's hugging him, then starts to kiss his neck. Then it becomes clear what she wants to do here. And he's not stupid, and he's like, oh. And he starts to unbutton the sweater, and she's like, no.
Yeah. Could you just keep it on while waiting? He's like, oh yeah, right. What was I thinking? You know?
Yeah. Why wouldn't I? I want to keep it on. Why would I take it off? And
but yeah, the funny part, to me, the funny part is that, you know, he starts to break the moment of taking it off, and then she like completely is like, no, don't take it off. We're like, it's like, we're now clued in that she's not just like having a weird, you know, emotional reaction to seeing this stuff. It's like she knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
You know, and it's definitely a little role playing for her as well, you know, that's going on. But yeah, it's so super funny. And so she literally, you know, jumps onto him and, you know, and is sitting on his lap, and they're making out, and he ends up, you know, kind of going down to the southern part of her, and that's when like he's like, wow, you know, and then suddenly her water breaks.
Yeah, and she's like, well, it's great because in the moment she's like, oh, Bert, and he's like, he realizes what's happening. Yeah. He's being used yet again, and he's okay with it.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, yes, I'm Bert. I am Bert in this moment.
Yep.
And it starts to get a little bow chicka wow wow. And
a little steamy,
and a little moist, and then
a little moist.
She has a moment, gets up from his lap, and is then like, she yells out "Bert!" and bends over at the waist, and her water breaks.
Her water break. Oh yeah, and you feel really bad for poor Chet.
Well, they pan the camera over to him, and I don't think a human being could look more horrified than he did in that moment. Like,
yes,
he in less than 5 minutes went from comforting a friend to now, just before they're about to have sex, the water breaks and it falls.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's this not what he signed up for.
No, not at all. And let's remember, when the scene opens, he's like sitting down to eat dinner. And he doesn't even get to do that because she interrupts him before he can even take a bite.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So just when you think that's a fantastic episode, like moment in the episode, you're like, oh, well, they won't be able to top someone being,
no.
you know, water breaking. No. Then we go back to Lucy and Cooper, and they arrive at the Super Duper Mart. Oh. And from here on out, it is just so friggin' awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a couple of different scenes from the Super Duper Mart, but the opener where it's clear, you know, he has brought her there to sell her so he can get more vials. So she can't believe it, and he's like, you know, you got a better chance trying to, you know, you got a better shot in there than you do out
Trying
here.
your luck. Yeah. Trying your luck, what's behind that door.
Yeah. So she reluctantly goes in, plus, you know, he's the one with the gun, so she kind of has to. And she is greeted by a robot, and his name is...
a Mr. Handy.
It is a Mr. Handy. He is nicknamed Snip Snip by his owners a little later on, so we find out his name later. But it's funny because she's trying like hell to be like, there's this guy up front and he kidnapped me and I need to get away. And he's like, that sounds terrible. It looks like your finger's missing. And then out of nowhere, he's like,
let's take care of you.
Let's fix that up. And she's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, and follows him. Because she does want her finger fixed. So it's like,
sure,
might as well. You know, she goes through door number 1. And they have this really funny exchange where, you know, she's trying to tell him this stuff. You know, he didn't treat me well, and he's like, that sounds terrible.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And they have this exchange where she's just trying to get all this information out. And then, you know, finally he roots through a drawer and picks out a finger drawer, picks out a finger. And he's I love the line where it's like, it's good that I didn't have to use a thumb.
Yes.
I kind of wish that he had to, though.
It's really bad.
Because
you want it?
Well, I think that would have been hilarious to have to show, like, but that would have been terrible to have that CGI every damn episode. Where she, you know, I mean, she could have worn like a little prosthetic that made her finger look like a thumb. But that just would have been hilarious to have like 2 thumbs next to each. I don't know. Anyway, so he performs the little surgery, gets her finger. I almost said her thumb, but gets her a finger reattached for her, and she is just pleasantly like, that feels pretty good. She's feeling a little better,
you should point out that the finger that he picks up, it's like gray.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like been
dead.
In there for and yet and he just literally like lasers it onto her stump, and she's immediately like, oh, that feels really good. And you can like see like the line where it goes from her skin color to this gray dead finger.
Yes. But she takes that moment and she like bends and stretches it a little bit, and she's like, that's nice, thank you. And I guess a gray sort of deadened finger is better than no finger, is basically what the showrunners are trying to tell you right here. So folks, if you've got a gray finger, keep it, because it's better than having no finger.
Yes, I think that is the lesson to take out of this episode.
It's definitely the lesson.
Dead finger better than no finger. Yeah,
correct.
And it's just sort of like a weird. We just have to, you know, it's a science-y, wine-y thing here that he you know, welds the finger back on or whatever, and now she can bend it and stuff. You know what I mean? Because for the rest of basically the rest of the series, it just works like a finger. You know, it's there's no. You got this dead thing attached to you, you know what I mean? But yeah, she is like super excited and like starts to kind of think, oh, you know, it's not too bad in here.
Yeah. And in that moment, he says, you know, would you like a synthetic fiber wrap for your wound, or all cotton, or a blend of whatever? And she's like, you have real cotton? And he's like, of course. Don't you? Yeah. And in that moment, she just softens. And she's like, I feel so much better. I thought you were going to bring me in to be a sex slave. And he's like, what?
That's awful. Yeah.
That would be awful. And she feels, better. And he's like, yes, I'm simply going to harvest your organs.
Oh, and she's like, she has the what now?
And he shoots the vial, the syringe into her, and then boom, she's down for the
trank dart, and she just falls back onto the gurney that he had her get up on. Yeah, again, the comic timing is great, and the way that the snip plays it's like, you know, he's like spouting all these like kind of small talk phrases that you just know he was like programmed to say. You know what I mean? So it's not really like he's answering her and in a intelligent way. It's just like the most common response he thinks to say, you know what I mean? It's like, it's really well done. The whole thing. And again, in episode 1 at the birthday party, we see another Mr. Handy in the house.
Yes. It's not our first Mr. Handy. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the same kind of robot, and what does he say when they're kind of walking towards the room where he's gonna, you know, repair her finger? He says something like, you know, oh, you know, my timing sensors are terrible. They got damaged during the Great War, and that must have been at least a week ago, you know. And
yeah.
So you can tell that like this robot's been around for a long time and really has no idea about what time it is. So.
Yeah, exactly. And she's down for the count, and then we go away from this scene, so we don't see what happens to Lucy yet. But don't worry, we'll be back.
Oh, yeah. So we cut back to the vault, right?
Yeah, and this is the scene where Norm has there's a couple of different moments with Norm, but he has this great moment where, and you included the line, he's still involved with bringing stuff over to the prisoners. He's really conflicted about that. It's really wearing on his mind that they are keeping these people and they're feeding them and they give them Jell-O cake and it's an abomination, and he just doesn't know what to do about that. He's not sure. And he has this great moment with one of the prisoners, which you put the line down in your notes, and the guy's like, "What are you looking at?" And he's like, "I'm looking at a murderer in a cage." And you killed all those innocent people of Vault 32. And then he responds, and you included the line.
Yeah, and the Raider just kind of, it's the cell has like the little sliding door, that you can slide the food trays through, right? And so he's opened that up, and he's been kind of putting the dishes of cake in, and then like the woman who's there is like, they get cake?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. And then he's like, do you want it? And she's like, yeah. And so he's like, yeah, go ahead. I won't tell anyone. So she leaves, right? She wheels the cake out. She's like, I'm going to go put this in my fridge, So he kind of has a little moment by himself in that area. And this, you're right. This prisoner kind of like is bent down and is looking through this like opening, and they have this exchange about, what are you looking at? And he's like, I'm looking at a murderer. You killed all those innocent people. And he goes to slide the door closed, and the Raider puts his hand out and stops it.
Yeah.
Right. And he looks at him and he goes, I don't know what the people of Vault 32 were up to, but it was anything but innocent. And it's the guy really sells it with the delivery of like, again, kind of going back to what Coop said a little earlier, that it's like, there's what people said they do, and then there's what they actually do.
Right.
And you get kind of another flavor of this, and also another idea of, Lucy is slowly kind of learning that a lot of the things that she took to be absolutes about the surface are completely incorrect.
Right.
And now here is Norm being challenged on something very recent, but still very important to him in the history of the Vault, and that, he was under the impression that the Raiders got into Vault 32, killed all of the Vault 32 people, and then tried to take out their vault. And now he's being confronted with that might not actually be what happened.
Exactly. Yeah. And he's so committed to, it's interesting because people are so positive in that vault then, and it's great that, Norm questions, because he just can't, brush stuff underneath the rug. He needs to look into it. I mean, and it's his dad that's missing. I mean, there are people who are dead, and that's a tragedy, but it's also his father is missing. And it doesn't feel like it's a cut and dry thing. It feels like there's more going on there, and he feels the need to look into it more,
Yeah.
And he does. He goes from that moment, and he looks in the computer, and when he tries to look up some of the records in the computer, he can't. He's denied access.
Yeah.
So,
all the Vault 32 stuff is he cannot pull up.
Yeah. So he's like, well, if I can't get it on the computer, maybe I just need to go there and check it out myself. So he needs a partner in crime, and he goes to Chet's and bangs on the door. And when Chet opens the door, and he still has on the cardigan and the scarf.
Oh, he does.
But there is a screaming woman on his couch in the midst of giving birth, and a couple of people attending to her, doctors, nurses, whatever.
A doctor and a nurse, it certainly looks like, right? Yeah. And he just has this look of like, oh God, please help me.
What have I done? What have I done? And Norm takes a quick assessment of the situation and asks Chet, feel like getting out of the house? And Chet says, yes.
Yes. Oh,
doesn't even hesitate. So we get that great setup. So we know that they're going to head. I don't think they show us them getting to Vault 32 just yet. I think that's the start of the next scene when we go back over to the
Yeah.
to the
I think,
vault.
I think
we go back to the supermart.
Yeah, we're ping ponging now. Yeah,
Yeah,
because as soon as he goes yes, then it cuts back, and now we have the Snip is kind of wheeling the drugged out Lucy through the store, and it's so hilarious because he's still doing that like small talk to her, and he's like, "So, where are you from?" And she's like, and he's like, "Oh, I've never been there, but I've always wanted to go," and you're just like, "Oh my God," and he wheels her into this like other part of the store and down this like kind of like the frozen food section, and you know how you've got the big glass refrigerators that you would open to get like your frozen waffles or frozen pizzas or ice cream or whatever at the supermarket. It's kind of like those kind of things, and in each one there are like people, right?
Yep.
And as we kind of get a better look at it, we see that like they're like kind of like ghouls / people, where some of them look human, but others are more in the kind of what we have come to think of as the ghoul look, where their nose is fallen off, and there's this one little girl or little woman in about the middle of it that is just like kind of like hunched down in almost a fetal position going, "Martha, my name is Martha, my name is Martha," and we see all that, and you're like, what is going on here?
And the saddest part about the Martha thing is that this is Roger, the exact same thing. So we know that it's the last, like, she's losing her grip, and she's just trying to remind herself over and over, "I'm Martha, I'm Martha," just like
I'm a person.
Roger was at that moment. My name is Roger. He's doing the same thing. So unfortunately, she's not very cognizant of it. She's very sort of like drifty when she goes by. But the "my name is Martha" stuff, if she was like wide awake, it would have really, really hit her. She does see it eventually, but it's like we've seen that scene already, so we know,
right.
Oh, they're about to go.
She's on the road to turning. There's very little left of the person that she was.
And we meet our resident drug dealers.
So great.
Who are just chilling and sitting in front of the TV and doing nothing. Basically.
Well, they're like watching like Vault-Tec cartoons on the television there, and you see they've got like this big box full of vials of the drugs and pills and stuff, and they are like the two the two yahoos, right? And one of them is this actor that has like that's the character he plays, and you've seen him on a ton of commercials and stuff where he kind of plays like the big dopey guy.
Yeah, he was on Stranger Things too. Yeah.
Was he? Did he show up in Stranger Things too? Yeah, I know he's he's kind of made the rounds, and he always kind of plays that guy. So he's identified what he's good at and is capitalizing on it. So good for him,
Yeah.
But they're so funny too, because they're just the Mr. Handy comes in, or Snip comes in, and he's like, "Have another one for you, sir," and they're just like, yeah, okay, and I think like Snip's like, the offer is this subject for like 60 vials of the I'm going to use your term and use air quotes, anti-ghoul medication. And which tells you if that's a 2-month supply, that means that Coop has to do 2 of those vials a day.
Yeah.
Which is a lot, but and so they kind of look at her, and then they look down, and they're like, "Yeah, that's okay, cool, thanks, Snip," and you're just like, "Wow, you guys are in charge."
Yeah, it's crazy to think that they are in charge there, but I love it. It's just like, "Yeah, thanks, Snip," and he walks away, and they're like, "Great robot, he's the best."
Great robot, he's the best. Oh yeah. You almost get the sense that they're possibly high.
Yes, I got that. And if they weren't, it's just like that's the whole demeanor, like them sitting and watching the cartoons. It's hilarious because if you think about it, like they are exactly what the stereotypical image is of young guys sitting around playing video games, like, say, Fallout, for hours on end, are just like, yeah, he's cool. Yeah, I like him too. Like, and like, that's the stereotype, and they're like sort of feeding right into that, even though they're not playing video games, they're doing something else, but it's sort of like this representation of that right in front of you for a TV show that is based on a video game, which is pretty interesting.
Yes,
so
which is pretty cool.
So flash forward to poor Lucy, kind of wakes up and realizes what's happening. She's struggling and she's trying to get out of it, and I love how Snip's like, this won't hurt at all, and comes towards her with like, he's got like a not a chainsaw, like a circular
saw blade. Yeah, it's like, this won't hurt. It's like, really?
Yeah, I think you're lying. Yeah. It's pretty bad, and she like times it perfectly, and hits it with her foot, and so it still goes down like it's gonna chop into her, but it actually hits right by where her little bonds are, where she's been tied off to the gurney. So it breaks her bonds, so she's able to get off the bed really quick, which is great because the very next time it comes down, it's like right on the mattress.
Yeah,
son of a bitch. And she's like trying to like get away, and he's still just like rah, rah, with the saw blade coming toward her, and she's looking around for something, anything that can like help her out. And so she grabs like the the heart attack paddles, the shock paddles, and she just like puts them right on him, and just shocks poor old Snip into oblivion. And he's down for the count. He's not done, but he's down for the count for now. So, but she's at least safe for the moment, so that's good. And then I think we ping pong again back to the vault stuff, right?
The last, like, she shorts him out, and so he literally falls onto because they kind of hover, right, when they're operating, and like
so
he
ground.
is on the ground, and then we see her, and she like looks around the room, and she picks up this bottle of Abraxo cleaner, and it's like a liquid, and again, straight out of the game. You find Abraxo cleaner everywhere, and you take it because you use it to make explosives and stuff. It's got ammonia in it, and you need ammonia and sugar, and you can make an explosive. It's really easy, kids. You should look it up. But so that's when it cuts, is that she's disabled the robot, and then she's kind of looking around going, what can I use as a weapon? And she finds this poisonous cleaner, an Abraxo cleaner, and then it cuts, and we go back to her brother and his exploration of Vault 32.
Yeah. And it's great because we got some images before, when Norm was going through and seeing things, and so some of the images are not new to us. But seeing, like, he's describing everything to Chet and is saying, this didn't happen, like, recently. This has been, like, the amount of, dead plants that are where their corn used to be is, like,
they're husks.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a recent development. It's something that's been like that for quite a while. When they're moving around and they're seeing all these different shocking moments of like death, and that they're all vault people because they still, they're skeletons, etc. So that means it happened quite a bit ago, and they're still in their jumpsuits, so you can tell which ones are, them. And it's all these different varying scenes of like the person that's got like the the big long, something that was used as like a javelin or a sword, and it's like in their chest, and and then we got the other people later where they died like they literally were choking each other.
Yeah.
Then there was the other person that was in like the windowsill of like an apartment or house, and they were like all splattered all over the place. And it's just each time they like enter a room, to look around or in and go past something. There's literally a new horror like as they move into the vault. So it's really like astounding to watch as they sort of make their way through to, learn more, about what happened. So
yeah, and when they come upon the the one body, like you said, that has like, I don't know if it's like an IV rod or something, but it's like crammed through his chest like a spear or something. And Norm turns on his Pip-Boy and he goes, the last bio life scan that this Pip-Boy detected was 2 years ago. And so you now know that, okay, all these people died 2 years before the vault opened and the Raiders came in, right? And so and then as they go a little further, and like I think when they see the two guys or the two bodies where they both have like their hands locked around each other's throats, that's I think when Chet goes, they killed themselves, and sort of. But my favorite moment, and all of it it's creepy and great, and of course it's very low lighting, and so they've got like their flashlights on, and so it's all the creep factor is cranked way up, and it's awesome. But they go into that one room, and there's like 3 or 4 of the Vault 32ers, and they're all hanging from the ceiling.
Oh, yes.
That was so creepy. And you're like, and they then that is like the door in that room leads to the overseer's office. And they it's only open like about a foot or two, so they have to crawl into the overseer's office, but that's the room with the hanging people. And they and about halfway through they find like a dead guy, and he's like slumped against the wall, and like written in blood on the wall it says, we know the truth. And I always love it in all these movies and stories where like people that are like mortally wounded find the time to like write some cryptic message with their own blood on the wall. I think that's so cool that they're that considerate for whoever might find them.
Someone's gonna want to know.
Exactly.
And I need to I'm bleeding anyway, so I may as well leave them a note.
Yes. Yes. I always go back to Monty Python and the Holy Grail when they're reading what the guy had like chiseled into the wall, and he gets to the point where he goes, and they're like, the castle of and he's like, I don't know, he must have died while he was doing it. It's like, well, why would he manage to type if he was dying? And then one of them goes, maybe he was dictating, and they're like, shut up, but I always love that. And don't get me wrong, it's a real creepy, cool visual, right? But it's just always like, really, would you take the time to do that if you're like, your neck is slit open and you're spurting out blood and you've got like 20 seconds before you pass out and die? No. But anyway, so they go into the overseer's office, and that dude, I mean, he like his like corpse has this like big grin on his face. Didn't it look like that to you?
Yeah, and I can't remember. Does it even show how he died? I can't remember if there was something like in his chest, or there's so many dead bodies. It's like keeping track of how each one died is like, oh my god.
Yeah, and they're very desiccated and almost complete skeletons, right?
Yes.
There's very little meat left on them, but he's sitting in the chair at the overseer's desk, and on the wall in that room it's written in blood. Again, thank you. It says "Death to Management." Which is interesting.
Yes, I agree. And the fact that it's in the overseer's office.
Yeah.
And he is like head management. Like, so did he write it or did someone else write it? Like, did someone write it in his blood?
Right. Did someone come in and kill him and then write it? Or is that not even the overseer at all? And they killed the overseer, and that dude just went in there and ended his own life because he's flipping bananas, as Chet points out. And again, so many questions, right?
Yeah.
But in the overseer's office is one of the terminals, and the overseer, of course, has all of the security clearance to look up everything and anything.
Oh yeah.
And so Chet immediately sits down and is tapping away, trying to look up how did the vault open, how did the Raiders get in, and at that point not Chet but Norm's doing that, and I think Chet says when they went crazy they must have opened the door and let them in.
Yeah, like
And
opened from the
Norm,
inside. Yeah.
yeah, and then Norm's like, nah, not exactly.
Yeah, and he finds the information. He looks up in the logs because thankfully they keep a log of all that stuff, and it shows that it was. And he tells Chet it was opened from the outside. So someone was able to open the vault from the outside, and Chet's like, he's got this tone like that's impossible. He says they'd need a Pip-Boy to open the door. Which is a good safety measure, then it's someone who belongs in the vault is trying to come in. So
Right.
they need a Pip-Boy to open the door, and Norm is just incredulous and says they had one. Chet's like, whose?
Yeah,
And he can't believe it. He says, my mom's. And then the camera shows the screen and it's just like blinking and says, Rose McLean.
Rose McLean,
you're
Pip-Boy
like-
number 10.
And you're like, oh my God. Because,
Right.
you're trying to wrap your brain around all the stuff you've just seen. All these different varying stages of, and we're not sure. Death, suicide, murder, a combination of all of it. We don't know. We don't have the answers to that
We don't know.
yet.
Yeah.
So you're sort of
yeah.
parsing it all, trying to figure it out. And then the messages, the truth. Well, what's the truth? And then death to management. Okay, but we're in the manager's office. Like, what is going on? And then the
That
Pip-Boy is his
bombshell.
mom's, and it's like, well, his mom is dead. Like, how is that possible?
Well, and keep in mind that we jump back to the scene when, Lucy is, confronting the ghoul outside before they get to the Super Duper Mart, and, it's after the ass jerky, and she's
Yeah.
like, we had plight too, that whole scene. And
Yeah.
when she points out when, they couldn't farm the crops and there was starvation, and she's like, people died, including my mom. Right.
Yeah.
So that's what she was told,
Yeah.
that's how it happened. And so, again, we're getting a lot of this sort of, what you've been told is the truth, and things that you have been just holding very close to you as absolutes
Yeah.
is probably, you're finding out, much to your horror, that, wait, that's not how it went at all.
Yeah, it's again another instance, and this time it's she's finding things out while she's out there, but here's Norm, who's finding out like things are not as you seem. Like, everything that happened in Vault 32 felt like, okay, this feels like the Raiders did this, and everybody just sort of accepted that. But then you investigate and look a little further, and clearly it's not. There's more going on here, and then to see the thing with his mom. And now he's getting the same thing where he's seeing these new layers to the people he knows, and is questioning what he's been told his whole life, because it couldn't possibly be true if his mom's Pip-Boy was used to open the vault, 2 years ago or so. So that's interesting, and it's cool to see, Norm having some moments there, getting have some little acting moments there.
Having some moments, but also I think there's a danger zone for both of these characters that they're getting very close to flying into, as Kenny Loggins would say.
Yeah.
In that their dad was the overseer of their vault. And so if anybody knows like what's going on, it's him.
Yeah.
And so as they're starting to uncover bits, that are kind of contradicting like the truths they thought were absolute, it's eventually they're going to start going, how did Dad not know this? How did Dad not realize this was going on? How did, Dad talks to the overseers and all these other vaults. And if everybody in Vault 2 has been dead for 2 years, how did he not know that? You know what I mean? And so again, it's going to get to that point of like, I want to uncover the truth, but after a while, it's like, I don't want to uncover the truth because I'm afraid of what I'm going to find.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we haven't quite got there yet. Norm is not in that mode. I'm just saying that is certainly like on the horizon if you keep. What was the great line from Minority Report? When the guy tells Tom Cruise, "Be careful, Chief. You go digging up the past. All you really get is dirty." And it's just like, yep, that's true.
Exactly. I mean, it's so much easier for everyone involved if you just like stick your head in the sand and pretend.
Yeah.
But And Chet certainly seems like there's moments where he's like, these people went crazy. That's all that happened here. These people went nuts. That's what's happening. And so he's really fine with just sort of like finding an excuse and painting the whole thing with the same brush.
Brush and then going and never coming back.
Exactly. But Norm, like we said earlier, it's his dad that's gone. And he just can't. He can't let it go. So he investigates all the way. And then, then uncovers this crazy truth, So it's more than just, Chet has to come to that conclusion too. It can't just be people went crazy if it was opened from the outside. That's not the vault people. There was someone there. So yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
All right,
absolutely.
so we're done with the vault for this episode. But we are not at all done with the Super Duper Mart. It's about to get even more Super Duper. And there is so much I love about this final scene. So much. And, from Lucy, telling the guys, our stoner dudes to let all the people go. Because, and then that the fact that she filled the syringes with the Abraxo and blah, blah, blah.
And she's using Snip Snip as her gun.
Oh, yes, which is great. And he's fine. And I love it. She's like, tell him about Abraxo. And it's like, Abraxo will help you clean this, that, and the other thing. Highly poisonous.
Highly poisonous.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a great line.
Yeah, it is a great line. And they're basically like... they're a little scared, but then when she shoots the one of them, the first syringe, and it just changes the color of the sofa?
Of the couch, yeah. Well, like I said, first, she comes out and she's like, I'm leaving. And they kind of like, again, because they're like the slacker stoner guys, they like Leisha, and they're like, okay, and then she's like, and I want you to release all these people too. And so then they're like, okay. So then the guy hits a button, and most of the containers open up, and a lot of the ghouls that haven't turned yet leave it. It's hilarious because one of them goes, "Thank you," and then runs out.
Yeah, I loved that. It was so. It was kind of like it felt like Roger again. Like Roger would have been like, it's great, thank you
so much, I love you. It's like the farmer guy from a couple episodes who's like, thank you for not shooting me with that big gun, and so they all run out, and then she notices that like Martha is still locked up in her little container, and she's like, I want all of them, even those. And then the one dude, the dude from Stranger Things, is like, you don't understand. And he's trying to like tell her, like, you don't want to let those guys out. Then that's when she shoots the dart. Yeah. And it literally, like you said, the couch like turns brown and starts smoking.
Yeah. And they're okay.
They're like, well, all right. Then they hit the button, and then those things open, and then, what a great scene.
Yeah, it's like, because you made the comment earlier about how, the ghouls, before they turn, they're a lot like humans and whatever, but it's not until they do turn that they turn into the actual, there's no heart, no mind, no nothing. Yeah. And in this version of the zombie universe, they are fast. Fast moving. And so, Martha is where you can see, but there's a door off to the side that opens, and a few more come out, and just the look of them, Lucy's like, uh-oh.
Oh, fudge.
Oh, fudge.
No fudge here, I'm sorry.
So clearly they get more than they bargained for. They jump in, and she's smart because she like pushes something towards them, and she jumps off to the side and hides a little bit. She can't be seen. And they attack the two dudes who fight pretty valiantly and are able to actually kill them, but they get killed in the process as well.
Yeah. They get taken out, but they do manage to shoot the three that come at them. Yeah. And wow, what a great, I mean, they look great.
They do.
Right? They and they're all like, I mean, very like lots of reminiscing of Walking Dead.
Oh yeah.
And they, but again, like you said, they're running, they're fast, and they tackle the dudes as they're shooting at them, and you see them like ripping their and pulling their intestines out.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I mean, it's awesome, right?
Yeah.
It's all in the background. They don't focus on it a lot, but it's all happening, right?
Yeah, it's great. And it's great because then Lucy's got this moment, and there's Martha, and she's coming, and she's saying, Martha, my name is Martha. She's got the little snarls and stuff, and Lucy knows, like, she just saw Roger, and she's like, Martha, that's right, your name is Martha, you're fine, and she's trying to be like, maybe just, you can see it in her her sweet and kind heart, that she thinks, like, if I'm just kind and nice to this person, they'll understand and they'll remember. And then it's just like, as Martha really turns and she's like, rawr, and she's like, no,
oh fudge,
no, your name is Martha, no, and then Martha jumps. Yeah. And Lucy's got to put her down, and she gets her in the air as she's like coming down on her, and and she got her. But she's, I think, like, the putting down of Martha, I think, was a big lesson for her.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that she...
Turning point.
Oh, absolutely, I wonder in that moment if she feels like, the way Roger was able to go out, that, Coop was able to give him, is it a more, a nicer death? Like, is she thinking, it would have been nice if Martha hadn't actually turned, but had been able to, like, die while she was still slightly human and have, like, a memory or a thing, or just, like, remember her name, but by the time she's killed, she's gone, know? And I think Lucy has a really hard time with all of that, and she's the reason why Martha was let go, and it didn't really do anything for Martha. It didn't save her or make her any better, and I think there's a lot in that. I think there's a lot that Lucy sort of experienced in that moment where, it didn't matter how nice and kind she was. Martha still would have torn her face off if she'd had the chance.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And for me, it's just like, this is the first person that Lucy's killed.
Yeah.
So, so she's, gone is the girl who, is, plucky and, glass half full and finding the good in people. And, when she left the vault, she was armed with a tranquilizer gun. Right. And when when the Raiders were fighting and she went out to take them on, she had a tranquilizer gun. She wasn't killing them. She was just knocking them out when she was shooting them. Right. This is the first, actual person, ghoul or not, it's another living thing that she has killed. Yeah. And so, I took that scene to be very significant for Lucy's character. And you're right. She tried her darndest to talk Martha off the ledge. Yeah. And pull her back and say, yes, your name is Martha. You're still in there. Don't lose that. Hold on to that. Right. And Martha, she lost. She lost that fight, and, she turned and jumped. And I mean, they show her, and she's like flying through the air towards Lucy. Yeah. It's like full Superman, right? And so Lucy had no choice. If she didn't shoot her, she was going to die, right? Or be really, really, badly hurt. Oh, yeah. And, so I take this moment of this episode. This is a huge episode for Lucy, just changing and move, like you just said, moving farther away from the girl we meet in episode 1 when she is interviewing to be married. Yeah, exactly. It's just so far away. That girl is a distant memory now, and she's just, I love the fact that we're going back to the line that Wilzig gave her when she woke up and he was sitting in the chair creepily watching her sleep. Mm-hmm. And he kept saying, "Go back to the vault, little girl. You don't belong up here." And she's like, "Not without my dad," and mm-hmm. and then he's like, "Okay, but this place, you don't change it, it changes you. And when you finally get what you are looking for, will you still, the person you've become, will you still want any of the things that you wanted? And,
Yeah.
that whole line, right? And
Yeah.
we're seeing that happen right in
Yeah.
front of our eyes, that she is definitely changing
Yeah.
and not the person she was. And I love it. I think it's, again,
Yeah.
really crisp, tight writing. I love it.
And it's great too, because right after, she has her moment with Martha, the next moment we get is her all like badassed out. I love how the first thing they show is she clearly stole one of the dead guy's boots, because she needs to have boots.
Well, and remember, she lost one last week. The gulper pulled it off. So
that's why she needs boots, because she only had the one. So you see, it's the first thing they show. I'm like, okay, she's smart and got the boots, and then it pans all the way up, and she's like all outfitted with straps and guns and like leather pieces and everything, to
very Raider-ish.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And
the other thing is, she has half, like the top half of her jumpsuit, she has like tied around her waist.
Right. Yeah.
So she's, again, changing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Changes.
She comes out, the ghoul is still laying on the ground. And she comes out.
We didn't mention that, but the ghoul, we see the ghoul after she goes in, he literally like passes out.
Passes right out.
Yeah.
And so she goes over to him, and she's got a handful of vials and drops them in front of him. And he says, go ahead.
I was just going to say, she says something like, if you don't take this, you'll turn into Roger, like what happened to Roger. Yeah. And he kind of nods yes. And so then, and she's like lording over him. I mean, she can do whatever she wants. He is so out of it and can barely move. Yeah. And so continue.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, she threw the vials down, and she says what she says. She says what she says. She's thinking about the guns, because she looks down at her gun. She's thinking about it, because she could just take him out right now. She really could. And he's
kind of got it coming.
Yeah, but she also wants to make a point, because she's still, as much as she's changing, she's still deep down inside, she's still Lucy McLean. So she squats down next to him and makes sure he hears, and she says, I may end up looking like you, but I'll never be like you. And she drops the vials down to make her point, that someone else wouldn't have done that. And then she like backs up, and as she's backing away, she just says, golden rule, motherfucker, and then walks. And it's so badass on so many levels, and I just loved it. It's really great. And you wonder, like, if it makes any difference to the ghoul. Interesting to think about, because we don't really get a lot of emotion. He's teetering on the edge, just like Roger was, just like Martha was. He's teetering on the edge of being like, Cooper, my name is Cooper, my name is Cooper.
Pretty much. Yeah.
He's almost there, and he knows it. And there's some relief there, but it's hard to tell, because he's just so weakened. So it remains to be seen if he has any feelings or emotions over that. His first initial emotion is we don't see him take his first doses, but we see him take the rest of his doses.
Oh my God, does he go? Yeah, he goes into the Super Duper Mart, and he has an inhaler, and he inhales one vial, and then he just starts drinking vials, and like where the two Nimrods were on the couch, there's like a little coffee table, and there looks like there's like a little plate full of, I'm just gonna say it's cocaine, but it's some kind of drug. And he takes that whole thing, and then he finds like a bottle full of, I don't know if it's water or alcohol, and he's just chugging that, and then he sees the box and it's full box. And he's just like, oh yeah, and he's just vial after vial after vial, and he looks over at the dead guys, and he's like, I would offer some of these to you, but you all weren't invited to this party.
And it's great too, because in a way it was about to go badly for him, but it turned out, not only did it turn out good for him, but it's even better than it would have been if it had been just like Lucy and 60 vials. He now has the whole box of vials, and who knows how many are in there total, you know?
Right.
So he's made out like a bandit, really. And he's celebrating and enjoying himself, and realizes the TV's there. And he's like, well, let's go check this out. This looks like, you know, and right near the TV, there's a videotape. And he sees...
Okay, and look, we have to point out, this is like a 1950s version of a Betamax tape.
It's great. It looks so cool. It's
does.
Great. It's great.
It does, yeah.
And if you don't know what Betamax is, kids, Google it.
Google it.
So he puts the tape in, and you see that there's like a title there, so he clearly recognized it and puts it in.
The Man from Dead Horse.
And it's great, because it's that scene that we saw in his flashback with his feo fuerte y formal, you know, and we get that moment, but we get the finish of it where he does kill the guy.
Yeah.
And he's what does he say after he kills Joey?
He says something like, take that, you commie son of a bitch. Or you got what you deserved, you commie. Which again, you're like, Western with commies?
Yeah. Methinks this is different than the Westerns I've seen in the past.
Yes, me too.
Yeah. But it's a great way to sort of close out the episode, because he starts out, you know, he's totally in control of Lucy, in control of where they're going. He's got a purpose, and he knows what he's doing. You know, he does have the moment in the beginning, which I interpret as a moment of a brief, shining moment of kindness. And regardless, he puts the guy down, regardless of whether you think it was and wasn't. But he starts with, you know, this brutal moment with Roger, and the ending is this other moment that we know he resisted. He did not want to kill Joey, and you know, the director was talking to him, and we never saw the outcome. We just saw him say, oh, let's talk back when we get back after lunch, and it's this heartwarming scene with his wife and his daughter, and you know, you don't know, but you hope, and you're like, oh, well, it's so lovely. I'm sure he talked to the director out of it. No, that's not how it worked. And he ended up being the guy who shot the outlaw. So it's just a really interesting way to sort of bookend the episode. So how'd you feel about that final scene there?
Yeah, it's same thing. You know, I love the callback where we see, you know, the obvious completed version of that scene. And you know, we find out that, you know, he lost that fight. That artistic fight, right? Yeah. Where, you know, he's like, look, my character, you know, can't I just lock him up? That's what I do. That's what people, you know, I'm the sheriff, you know, and of course the director's like, no, you know, we have to see the man. I love that line that's been pushed to the point where, you know, violence is the answer now. And that doesn't sum up Coop's character, right? What will, you know what I mean? And we don't know yet what that is. And how long did it take? Because he's been around forever. But yeah, I thought that was such a great way to end the episode, that he sees himself and maybe sees himself when he first started to change and become the, you know, the person that he is. Much like we've just seen Lucy start to change. You know, there's so much symbolism in this episode. You know, like I said at the beginning, not a lot happens plot-wise, but there's a lot of character stuff that happens in this episode. Yeah. And so I thought the scene was great. I thought it was a perfect way to end the episode. I was really hoping that we might have gotten a line where he'd be like, you know, another rule of the wasteland: never owe a solid to someone you don't like. Because, you know, now Lucy kind of has that, like, you know, card in her, you know, back pocket of, hey man, the next time they run into each other, because again, he's still after the head too, you know. Right. And she did not put him down. So the chances of them meeting again, I don't want to spoil things for you people, it's pretty good. Yeah. But you know, when that happens, he now has to kind of grudgingly go, okay, I'm not going to mess with you now because I owe you
Right.
for what you did. And that's going to kill him.
Oh, God, yeah.
So yeah, while Lucy kind of retained a little of her, golden rule, goody, she's also smart in that, look, I just did this for you. And, as much of a bastard as he is, he definitely projects that, like, he has a sense of honor.
There's a code there.
Yeah, and the fact that she not only didn't kill him, but gave him the stuff that he was after in the first place, that, he at least, won't, like, take her out without giving her at the minimum,
Yeah.
So yeah, the ending of this episode is fantastic all the way around.
We're at the end of the episode. I'm taking a peek at my notes, and I feel like I got through all of my stuff. Do you feel like you got through your notes as well?
I did. The last thing I wanted to say was just, like I pointed out in my quick thoughts, that this was like a love letter to the video game players.
Yes.
And just what I expound on that. The Super Duper Mart is in the games, and at least in Fallout 4, it's in there. And it when you get there, it's infested by ghouls. You don't have the guys running the dim bulbs, running the business, or the snip, but it's usually full of ghouls. It's real hard to see, and if you don't play the game, you might not notice it. But when Coop, kind of pushes the little intercom and is talking to, say, I need the 2-month supply and stuff outside.
Yep.
Off to the left, there's a generator that's running and it's smoking.
Okay.
And generator, again, you can build them in the game. It's how you can, power lights and stuff on your little bases that you build. Mm-hmm. So that's straight out of the game. We mentioned the Blammo mac and cheese. We mentioned the Abraxo. When Coop comes in at the end and is scooping up all the drugs, and I mentioned the coffee table, and he picks up, like, what I'm just going to assume is cocaine and is, snorting it. On the table, there's like a blood bag. And again, it's for you, I'm sure it just didn't register at all. But for all the people that play the game, you find these blood bags occasionally, and they're like, first aid kits. You if you use them, you gain hit points. You like heal your character a little bit. And it says, it says either good blood or rad blood. I can't remember what it says in the game, but whatever it is, it has the same marking, like kind of like handwritten, and marker kind of on the top of it. So many little moments and little things that they pulled out of the video game and just meticulously recreated to be exactly the same. And again, it's like a total, like, here you go, gamers. Here you diehard Fallout people that want to see how accurate and how close are we gonna get. Check this shit out. So yeah, and again, made me enjoy this episode even more because everything was right. Everything was exactly how it is in the game. And so I adore that. I thought that was really cool.
Well, that's awesome. All right. Well, if we've got nothing else to chat about with the episode, we should go ahead and take our little break here. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So, folks, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to discuss what's coming up next on the podcast. We'll also filter in some listener feedback about this particular episode, talk about some things we've been up to lately. Yeah, that's coming up next after this break.
So, everyone, stick around. We'll be right back to harvest your organs.
The following is an emergency action message. Civil authorities have identified a biological threat that they deem credible. This threat could potentially affect the entire continental United States.
The dead are returning to life and attacking the living.
911, what's your emergency?
There's a man up bad and he's attacking another man. Looks like he's biting him, like on the arm.
The initial signs are puzzling, unclear.
Getting pulled out of their cars and thrown to the ground. It looks like the bus passengers are biting their victims.
Soon, however, the reality is clear and undeniable.
The crisis involving the recently dead continues. Parliament today passed a law that requires all bodies of the recently deceased to be registered and turned
Toxic
over.
Bag Productions has captured the sounds of the zombie apocalypse and brought them to your gaming table. Background ambiences, zombie attacks, and radio transmissions that set the scene for your modern zombie adventure. Download MP3s from drivethrurpg.com or toxicbag.com.
Hey, this is Patricia Tallman, and you're listening to the Aim for the Head podcast with Diana and Steve. Don't forget to always aim for the head, because body shots just don't work, and I should know.
Hey there, everyone. We are back. First up, we're going to jump into our listener feedback. I know that this is going to sound like a broken record, but it's our number one listener, Erica Price. Hello, Erica.
Hey, Erica.
Thanks so much for writing in. As always, we love to hear from you. And so Erica writes in via the Facebook, as usual, and she says, "Hey, friends, here we go with episode 4. I'd say Roger is pretty astute for a super dead man. Before things get ugly, my dude, that was decades ago. I was wondering when Lucy was going to seize her moment, but she learns a brutal lesson. A finger for a finger. I really thought he was going to eat it, though. Too fresh?"
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. I actually think Steph and Chet make a good couple. Hopefully he won't mind changing his name to Bert.
Well, she has to change her name to Lucy. So.
Yeah. Norm isn't taking Betty's advice to tread lightly very seriously. Hope it doesn't land him and Chet in hot water. The scene in 32 is so grim. Cooper the Ghoul binging on all the vials is hilarious. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I'd do the same. How amazing is it that he finds a tape from the scene where he argued against killing the bad guy, only to see that he had to film it anyway. Sad Ghoul is sad. And
Aww.
Lucy is turning into the ultimate badass. See you next week, Vaulty. And I wanted to remind... Thank you for writing in, Erica. Hilarious as usual. I wanted to remind people, too, like, don't forget that, she makes the note about Chet and Stephanie, and they're cute in their own way. But the best part about that whole scene, other than his, I'm Bert, I'll do whatever you want. When
I am Bert.
Right as he said, I'm Bert, I am Bert, the camera pans back and there's this picture and it's literally of Bert.
The portrait.
The portrait. It's literally like Bert is there watching, and it's creepy and it's strange and it's hilarious.
It's hilarious.
I loved it. Thank you for writing in as always, Erica. We love, love, love hearing from you. Keep it coming. Keep it coming.
I just would point out too, with eating the finger, he didn't eat it, but it looks like he keeps it. Because he doesn't, she like spits out his finger and he just like holds on to hers, and we don't see him like throw it or whatever. So it's possible he still has it.
Oh, gross. I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about what he's going to do with her finger. Poor girl. Ugh, gross. Great. Thanks a lot, Erica. Now we're thinking about what he's going to do with her finger. I hope it's not something dirty.
Look, I think it's safe to say that Erica just gave us the finger.
Yeah, totally. Thanks,
That's
man.
Thanks a lot.
We'll find out what he does with the finger, maybe in next episode. So next week we'll be discussing episode 5. Title of that episode is The Past. So I'm thinking that maybe we might see some flashbacks. I don't know, but I mean, sometimes the title isn't like right on, but
it's true. We don't really know. Maybe The Past is the name of a character or something. But yeah, I would go with you. I'm imagining we will definitely see possibly maybe a little bit of flashback. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe possibly a little bit. The description we get of the episode is that Lucy joins forces with Maximus to find Thaddeus, who absconded with the head.
Oh.
Shock. Meanwhile, Betty becomes the overseer of Vault 33 and reassigns part of the population to Vault 32.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, we didn't point that out, but there is a scene early on where in the vault where we see Reg and Woody, and they're putting up like campaign posters.
Yes.
to like vote for Reg for, overseer, vote for Woody. And then they're like, hey, Reg, hey, Woody, Reg, I love your posters, man. They're so great. I was just admiring yours too, Woody. It's just, this kind of weird,
they're
like,
so pleasant.
they're trying to be pleasant, but they're like, go for it yourself. I want to win.
Yeah.
And we don't see Betty doing any campaigning at all, really, yet. Apparently, according to the description, she's going to win the election whenever it happens. But so that I thought that was really funny.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. They're just so friendly with each other. It's crazy.
Oh.
All right. So that's next week's episode. So just sort of catching people up on what we've been up to outside of the podcast. Steve, maybe you'd like to talk about what we did this past weekend.
Yeah, how about that? It was, one of the greatest weekends of the year. It was Flashback Weekend in Chicago. Usually it's right at this time of the year, first weekend in August. And, this show was just as super cool as all the others. I was there all 3 days. Diana, you came down and we hung out together on Saturday and had an amazing time. So many great panels, so many great people talking and just very entertaining. We did a lot of people watching. We got to stroll around the dealer's room and, look at the treasures and things that, we debated buying, and then more importantly, debated where would we put them in our houses if we did buy them. And it was amazing. I got all my autographs on Friday night, which was fun and really helped me because I didn't have to lug my tubes and stuff around for the rest of the weekend.
You said tubes.
And tubes. I met Danielle Harris, of course. She's Jamie Lloyd in Halloween 4 and 5, and of course was in the Rob Zombie reboot of Halloween, and she's in the Hatchet movies. I had her sign my Charmed poster because she was in an episode of Charmed in season 1, and she continued what every person who I've had sign my Charm poster who was a guest star when I asked them if they've ever signed anything like this before, and she said no. So so they're just like everyone else. They're all like, God, no one.
I love your commitment to the Charmed poster. It's been interesting.
Got to do it. Charmed, it's like 20 years old now, 25 years old, 26 years old, but a lot of people that were on it were young actors just starting out, and a lot of them went on to become somebody, and it's really, really fun. And a lot of them have made genre pictures, whether it's sci-fi or Marvel or horror, so they are people that would go to these kind of shows. So I'm kind of slowly scratching them off the list. It's really cool. The biggest one that I think I could meet is Amy Adams did an episode of Charmed, and of course she played Lois Lane in the Superman movies from a few years ago, so it's very possible she could show up at a fan expo or a flashback weekend. But anyway, Daniel Harris was great, and then there was a Reanimator reunion, and so I got to meet Jeffrey Combs and Bruce Abbott, and oh my God, Barbara Crampton, and Barbara Crampton. As much as I had Teenage Steve had a crush on Catherine Mary Stewart from Night of the Comet, a little bit older Teenage Steve had an even bigger crush on Barbara Crampton from back then. So she was great to meet. They were all great to meet. They were super nice and friendly. And then there was also a Howling reunion. And I got to meet Joe Dante, the director, and he was just such a cool dude, and had so many great stories, and worked on it. He directed The Howling, he directed Gremlins 1 and 2. He helped make Rock and Roll High School. He did Amazon Women on the Moon. I mean, he's done a ton of different kinds of movies. So a super fun, interesting guy. And then Mama Dee Wallace. The mom from E.T., and she was in Critters and Piranha, and of course she's the lead in The Howling, and you saw her interviewed by Nick on Saturday, and oh my God, that woman was awesome.
She's
hilarious.
Amazing. She's amazing. Yeah.
Super great. And she was like that at her table too. She has, I believe, as you would say it, she has no forks to give.
Yes, that is absolutely how I would describe her.
Yes. And if she, is going to say something about someone that, she's not going to be political. If she, it's bad, she's just going to be like, yep, that's how it was. She don't care. And it's awesome. And she's very funny, and she was great. And then there was another woman from the Howling movies who was there. I'm trying to remember. Barbara Belitsky is her name. Belinda Belitsky, I'm sorry. And she was really cool and fun as well. And so that was great. And of course, Robert Englund was there. And on Friday night, I went. Sven Gulli shows up every year, and he did a like talk show, think like the Tonight Show kind of a setup where he was the host. He was the Johnny Carson or the Jimmy Fallon, if you want to use modern stuff. And he had a sidekick there. Nick DiGilio played his Ed McMahon, his sidekick, and then his guests were Robert Englund, and then Joe Dante and Barbara Crampton. And it was about an hour, maybe about 70 minutes long. And again, Robert Englund is such a great storyteller, and amazing stuff. It was so cool. They showed a couple of photographs from 1976, and it's Mark Hamill and Robert Englund's like wife or girlfriend, and I think it was like someone Mark Hamill was dating, and they're at the special effects studios where they were filming Star Wars, and he's like pointing out like a model of the Millennium Falcon, and the next one is him pointing out a section of the Death Star where the trench is. And both of them are in various stages of like being made. Like the Death Star part of it hadn't been painted. It was all white, and you could tell a lot of the things weren't finished. They were just sort of like started. So really interesting. And of course he told stories about Mark Hamill, because he and Mark Hamill were best buddies, and Mark Hamill crashed on his couch back then and all this stuff. So again, it was amazing. He's amazing, and Joe Dante was great. And so that was super fun. And then, like Saturday when you were there, we had a ball. Kind of doing all the stuff we, people watching and shopping and going to some panels, and then we went out to dinner, and that was super fun. And then I came back on Sunday because Joe Dante had a panel, and he was great, telling stories about working with Roger Corman and how he got his start, in making these kind of cheap movies, but learning how to make movies with no money. And that was really interesting and fun. And then there was a Reanimator panel where the 3 Reanimator stars got up, and they talked about, making the movie and how it affected them and then changed their lives and all that. And so again, incredible weekend for me, super great. Always a highlight of the year, for me, and I know you enjoy going, and we love looking for what shining stuff. We went to the costume contest. There were 2 people of the Grady Girls in the costume contest. That was awesome.
It was.
Yeah, and the woman that won the adult costume. First of all, the kid who won the kids portion.
Oh my God.
Oh my. Talk about her. She was amazing.
She was dressed as Megan from like the Megan the Doll thing, but she was probably 4 years old, maybe.
4 or 5 at the most. Yeah.
And she's got this long, the wig on. She's a dead ringer, and the outfit and everything, but she was so precocious and adorable. Oh. And she had to like look up. And they kept putting her on the screen, and everybody's like, "Oh my God!"
Oh, everyone is just melting.
So cute.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. And of course, Sven Gulli hosts the costume contest. He MCs it, and he was just like gushing over her too. It was super great. She won, hands down. She won, and then this woman showed up, and she had had the contact lens. She's kind of like a zombie. She had the contact lenses, and she had like the prosthetics on, and she had rigged her shirt that she had like a little portable smoke machine, and so she turned it on, and she would literally start smoking.
It was amazing.
And fogging. Yeah, and she had like her back had this big like the shirt was ripped open, and you could see like a prosthetic wound, and she had like little green LED lights that would come on, and so she looked like she was green
or whatever.
She was really it was super impressive. And like Sven always asks the people as they come up, like, what's your name, and then who are you what is your costume? And then they're like, lots of people are dressed up like Jason, and it's like, I'm Jason, or whatever. And so he asked her, who are you? And she goes, I'm me. and she just made it up. It wasn't from a movie or anything. She just did it.
It's her own creation. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool. That was fun, and so again, just a great weekend, and of course the horror fans, they're the nicest people. You can get in line to get an autograph and start talking to the person in front or behind you, and you'll just have a grand time because everybody is super friendly and curious. Oh, what do you have inside? Oh my God, that's so cool. Where'd you get that? And I drove all the way from Missouri for the show. Really, it's just it's amazing. It's incredible. So
and the celebs always say that they have a great time there too. Dee Wallace was making a comment about how she's like, I've been to a few of these, and this is just. You guys always do such a great job here. So, yeah.
So, yeah, again, super great. I mean, it is. It's one of the highlights of the year. And, and fortunately for us, in 2 weeks, we get another highlight of the year.
Yeah, it's like one right after the other, for crying out loud.
Because Fan Expo is coming up here in a couple weeks, and we'll be right back in Rosemont. So we will talk about that when after that happens, but that should be super fun too. But just a great time, and we got to hang out, and that's always fun. So.
Yeah, and folks, if you're looking for a new horror convention to try, and you've never been to Chicago, and if you want to turn it into like hey, come and visit Chicago and try out a different. Because Flashback Weekend is it's run by these two folks who own the Midway Drive-In Theater, which is out in the boonies, and they started this convention. Yeah, they started this convention that helps defray the costs of the drive-in, and it's the big thing that they always push is, especially the people that are there to help out, like Nick DiGilio. It's not a corporate run convention. It's just these two people who've been doing it for 25 years at this point, I think is what they said.
I always get confused because we have the COVID year where they didn't have a show. So I don't know. Is it 26? Is it 25? Is it 20? I don't know. But it's been since the early 2000s is when it started. So it's been around for a while, and it is. And that's I think why Dee Wallace and other celebs always say, this show's, different. It's run differently. It's not corporate. It's, it's much more mom and pops because it's just Mike and Mia Kurz are running it. So, yeah.
And they've got it's a very personal touch on everything. They're running things. The people that are, the staff members, I've only been going for a few years, and I recognize some of the staff people that are there every year, and these people, they put their soul into the weekend, and it's a really, really great convention. So I'll throw it out there for people that are, not from Illinois. It is worth it to come and, if you're, like I said, if you've never been to Chicago and you've always wanted to go, plan a trip and do it the weekend that Flashback Weekend is here. And then you can do sightseeing and go to this really great convention, and it's always, like you were saying, it's the people, the other fans, the vendors are always super nice and super friendly and chatty about stuff because they love this stuff too. All the celebs are always good. We've always had a good experience with the celebs, no matter who they are, and it's just from top to bottom, it's just such a great run show. It's the highlight of the year probably.
Yeah. If not the highlight, certainly one of. It's 1A. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? So right up there. So anyway, I kind of forgot. Also, Robert Englund was there.
Yeah.
Freddy Krueger himself. So it was an incredible show. Billy Zane, Lisa Zane showed up. I mean, and then all the Terrifier people. They always have Terrifier is really exploded, and every year seemingly at Flashback there's like 10 or 12 Terrifier people there, and huge crowds, right? People come out to see them in huge numbers. So if you're a fan of the Terrifier series, here's your chance to meet Art the Clown, or meet Damien Leone, who's the creator and director, or half the cast from any of the various Terrifier movies. So it's just an incredible weekend, and super cool. So
All right. So one other bit of news. Steve, you're going to be a guest star on somebody else's podcast coming up.
That's right. Supposedly dropping this week. I mentioned it last week, and we're just plugging it again. There's a podcast out there called Bloody Essentials, and it's a horror podcast. And last year they had me on, and I prattled on and on about Halloween 2. The Jamie Lee Curtis, John Carpenter classic from 1981. And so they asked me back this year, and this time around, because it's July, and I thought, well, July, 4th of July time, let's try and find a 4th of July area, specific movie. We're chatting about the Return of the Living Dead from 1985. Ooh. So, yeah, and it was really fun discussion. A lot of laughs. We had a really good time, and so if you're so inclined to listen to us, again, the name of the podcast is Bloody Essentials, and you can find it wherever podcasts live. I have been told by the powers that be that it will be dropping on either Tuesday or Wednesday of this week. So
yeah, and as soon as it does, we'll share it in our feed, so that we'll send you a link so that you guys can listen in, because if you just don't have enough Steve in your life, you just need to get an extra dose.
Who does, right? I
right.
mean, come on.
I mean, what can you say? He enjoyed taking care of his shoes. So I think we've tapped out on things to chat about. Anything else we need to throw in there before we wrap it up?
I don't think so. I think, that's kind of it. Again, great episode, a great weekend, with Flashback, and yeah, everything is cool. We're on to episode 5, The Past.
Yes. All right. So that's going to do it for us this week, folks. We look forward to chatting with you next week for episode 5. But until then, as always, I'm Diana.
And I'm Norm. Steve.
Don't forget to always aim for the head.
Because body shots, they just don't work. To send us an email, write us at aimfortheheadpodcast@gmail.com. And our Twitter handle is @AFTH Podcast. Pictures and video are always welcome at our Instagram account, Aim for the Head Podcast, all one word. But the best way to keep in touch with us is to just like our Facebook page to get all of our updates in your feed. Wait for it. What do you have to do?
You might aim for the head when you need to kill someone in the wasteland. I'm just saying. It's just a suggestion,